Hello. Hey, hopefully we stay connected because the thing was just acting kind of goofy. As you notice, I'm not in my office. I'm outside. The reason I'm outside, it's not just because it's beautiful out here. It's because my office is now empty. It's sort of in shambles. Everything has been moved out of my office across the hall downstairs to make room for the drainage system that's going to go in. Hopefully, I think Friday. So the downstairs is a mess. A lot of people have been putting in a lot of work to get it ready for that this coming Friday. Yeah, so that's why I'm outside. It's beautiful, but I don't have an office to be in right now. So I want to say good morning to you. Sorry I wasn't on yesterday for our live stream. I was working at the clinic. I have a really weird schedule this week at the clinic. So forgive the traffic that goes by, but we'll deal with it. It'll be okay. You watch, the train's going to come, because every time this thing's on, every Sunday morning the train comes. It'll probably come now. So this is our Going Deeper live stream. I want to say good morning to you if you're watching, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good night if you watch later. What we do here on our Going Deeper streams is that we just talk a little more, go a little deeper from our service the past Sunday. This past Sunday, the message was called Up Downs. Basically, we took a look at the story of David and Goliath out of 1 Samuel 17, and we talked about how we have been taught often to misinterpret stories like that. And usually what we've been taught to do, that's funny, Katie. What we've been taught to do is when we read about one of the Old Testament heroes or stories like that, is we put ourselves in as the hero. It's always good to put yourself into the Bible stories, but not necessarily as the hero, because David is not a representation of me. David is actually a representation of Jesus, particularly in that story where he's defeating Goliath. And we just looked at what happens when you misinterpret it like that. So if I am David in the story of David and Goliath, then Goliath is, my problems, right? That God's going to help me overcome. That sets me up to, number one, expect that all my problems are going to be dealt with if I'm just faithful, right? That they're just going to go away. And the second thing, what we don't think about, is that there's other characters in the story, like all of the frightened, helpless Israelites who need their hero, David, to show them the way, right? And so if I'm David in the story, then who are all those cowering Israelites, right? It's everybody else, right? It's all my brothers and sisters who need me to be their hero and lead them on their way, right? Yeah, bad way to interpret that story. Well-meaning way, but it doesn't work out real great when you do that. If we interpret it the right way, and we see David as a type, a representation of Jesus, Goliath as Satan, sin, death, hell, and the grave, we see Jesus being the hero as we ought to see him. And he is defeating the real enemy, right? And what that enables us to do is to see the cowering, helpless Israelites as all of us together, me included. I'll tell you, I don't know, I was not expecting as much positive feedback from that message as I received. I just didn't expect people to receive it the way they did. Something about that message Sunday, it struck a chord with some folks, and I'm glad it did, but I was just really surprised by it. So what I want to do today is I want to hear from you if you were touched by that message, maybe in a way you didn't expect. I'd love to hear how. I'll tell you what hit me, and I wasn't expecting this either. The part that really got me as I was prepping for this message, and more so as I preached it, was this idea about me being one of the many faceless, nameless Israelites that David, or David representing Jesus, was rescuing and delivering and making a way for and giving courage to. I don't know exactly why it struck me so profoundly, but it did, and I'm still working through that. And I think one of the reasons, and maybe if I get this all figured out, maybe I'll share it sometime because I'm not there yet. But I think one of the reasons is because most small church pastors, and I know quite a few of them, so I think I can speak with some authority on this. Most small church pastors feel like failures. We face a lot of frustration. We face a lot of depression. We face a lot of feelings of failure, myself included. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons being that we have built this expectation and been told that we're supposed to be the Davids and the Moseses, right? We read books on how to lead like Moses, and we hear sermons about how to be like David and to overcome every Goliath and be victorious in every situation. And so we have this picture in our minds of what success as a pastor looks like. And when we don't meet that expectation, we feel like a failure. We're reminded of it a lot, you know. Every time we have to get up and go to that second or third job, we feel like a failure because if I was successful, if I was a David, then my church would have grown big enough to where I wouldn't need that second or third job, right? Every time a family leaves to go to a church down the road because that church has multiple services that they offer, or, you know, killer full band worship, or their kids program, you know, has live circus performers and serves Chick-fil-A every week, and we can't do that. We're reminded of our failure. You know, every time our conference ships us off to a giant church somewhere where a real David, you know, tells us their story about how, you know, they started with 5 people in their living room, and within 10 years their church had grown to 10,000 people over 6 campuses, and we can do that too if we just follow these 5 easy steps, right? You know, we're reminded of our failure. And that's the mindset that so many of us live with. But when I saw, and when I was interpreting this story and writing the sermon out, interpreting it as it was intended to be interpreted, that Jesus is David, and that I am just one of the many people in that crowd. You can't even see my face. You know, you would have to come and look around the crowd for me to find me. Jesus being the only hero, me just being one of those who was being rescued and then empowered to go, you know, take the spoils of his victory. I don't know, there was something profound about that. I haven't figured it out yet. But there was some kind of relief that came in seeing that. And it made me feel a little bit less like a failure. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I don't know. So that's something I'm going to explore more. And what I would like today, this week, is to hear from you. What part of that message hit you in a way you weren't expecting? And how are you going to explore that more? All right, that would be really, really awesome for me to see. I'm going to read what Katie put up here while she's sitting in Walmart parking lot, everybody's favorite place to be. I was shocked by the message. You think I've never heard preaching that angle, but it sure is. That makes so much more sense. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so, Katie. Sometimes we look at it through the modern Western American lens when we read Scripture. But it is so helpful when we look at it as it was meant to be read, as it would have been read by the people who, you know, first read it. You know, it's a very powerful thing. So thank you, Katie. Be careful going wherever you're going. Have fun baking later. Hello to everybody who's on. Love you guys. And I'm looking forward to reading your comments. What part of that message struck you? How did it strike you? And in what ways are you going to be exploring that more? All right, love you guys. Have a great, great day, and I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye.